What's up, Pre-Algebra? We are finding the product today, and if you missed the notes, then here is essentially the notes in just one real fast section. And if you're like, no, I got that, then okay, just skip to where I start number one. If you are multiplying integers, and if they have the same sign, their result will be positive. And if you are not understanding what I'm saying by the same sign, they'll be positive. Check this out. Number 4, this is a positive 9. This is a positive 6. 9 times 6 is 54. It's positive. Same sign, positive. But then this one, this is negative 8 and negative 2. Those are the same sign. That will be positive. Now, one thing that I said when I was younger, and I'm sure you will hear people say today, is that you can say a negative times, in fact, I'll write the word times, a negative is positive. So I can give you an example of that. I mean, there is one right there, right? If you have negative 2 times negative 3, that is positive 6. But don't be confused if you had like negative 2 plus negative 3, that, oh, that's a negative and a negative, that must be positive. No, because that would be negative 5. So really there was a distinction here of if you are multiplying, right? All right, and then the other thing to take away from this lesson was that if you have the same signs, oh, I already said same signs, JK. If you have opposite signs, that will equal negative. And if you go back and watch the notes, you might have seen me say, not opposite, but different. Either one of those is okay, all right? So what's an example of that? Number 1 is an example of that. Positive 4, negative 3. Those are different signs. It will end up being negative, okay? Number 2, negative times a positive. Those are different signs. Those are opposite signs. It will end up being negative, okay? So really 1 through 4 gives the examples from the entire lesson. And now, can I give you a spoiler alert? Spoiler alert for next time. When you're dividing or multiplying integers, all of this stuff works out the same, okay? So now I'm just kind of going through these, and I'm going to work a handful of them at a time to just help you to go, oh, okay, yep, I know what I'm doing. And here we go. 0 times anything is 0. Negative 12 times negative 3, a negative times a negative is positive. Same sign, positive. These are opposite signs. And so let's see, I got to do some math real quick. I think that's 51. 13 times 7, 21, carry the 2. Yeah, I think we're good. And then don't forget to be negative. This is negative 9. And if you're like, wait, why was this one negative? Opposite signs, okay? And then really also, I know I am not trying to do an entire note thing on this, but just a reminder, like this is just how multiplication works. This says I have 4 groups. 4 groups. And then in each group is going to be negative 3. And if you were to add all this up, it would be negative 12, okay? And then one way of kind of looking at this is, as I said, hey, what if you had boxes, 4 boxes, and then they're cookies? So this is 3 cookies, right? 3 cookies in each box, but they're all negative. And if you're like, how do you have a negative cookie? Well, I looked at it as they were upside down. So how many upside down cookies do you have? You'd have negative 12. And then if you were to go over here and be like, well, what about this? Now imagine that the boxes are upside down. So if you had 12 upside down boxes and inside of it, all the cookies are upside down. I mean, if you could literally imagine an upside down box, the Oreo thing, because Oreos are on their side, right? Anyway, and then you open it up, well, then they would appear to be positive. They would appear to be right side up because they are, right? Okay. Anyway, let's check the rest of these. 7 is 11 times 7 is 77. 8 is 5 times -5 is -25. 11 is 2 times -12 is -24. 12 is -9 times -9. Those are the same sign. A negative times a negative is positive. A water tank leaks 5 gallons of water each day. 5-gallon leak. What integer, by the way, these have all been integers, represents the change in the number of gallons of water in the tank after 7 days? So here is our water tank, and it's got a little thing on the side where water is dripping out. Okay, that's really, I was gonna make a faucet, but I guess it's a leak. Whatever. What's happening is 5 gallons are coming out each day. I like to think of that as -5, right? And so after 7 days, we would have lost 35 gallons. Okay. If we were adding to it, let's pretend we were adding to it, well, that would be positive. Let's say we were adding 3. Okay, then it would be positive. They just wanted to know, that. Now they're just adding a few more numbers, really just one more number in some cases, no more numbers in this case. So what are we going to do? You have an option here. You can do 2 times -3, but you could also do 2 times 5 first, or guess what? You could do 3 times 5. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. So what I'm going to do is just go 2 times -3. That's -6. And if you're wondering why I wrote down -6, is because I'm telling you, there are some of you who, when you get stuck, you just sit there and you just stare. And you just are confused, okay? Write things down, and then maybe your brain can go, oh, it's not a question mark anymore, it's a light bulb. Beep. And you're happy, okay? So -6 times 5 is -30. That is what 14 is. 17 is a gimme because 0 times anything is 0. 20. Our notes said, and our notes are literally on the page over here. I deleted the page for this exact video, but whatever. These parentheses say, hey, listen, I have -3 inside my box. And then I have 2 of those boxes. I'm going to multiply those boxes together, basically. So I have -3 times -3. Why is it 1, 2 of them? Because of that 2 right there, okay? And -3 times -3 is 9. Now this one, I don't have a -5 in my box. I have negative, and then in my box is 5. So what this looks like is this negative is out front. And then I have 5 times 5. Why is it 1, 2 5s? Because of that 2 right there. And I end up getting -25. Okay? 26, the absolute value of -3 is 3 times -6. That's -18. Number 15, -5 times -4 is 20. Times -1, that's -20. -6 times +4 is -24. -24 times -2 is +48. I want to pause for a moment and point out the difference in how I wrote these two. Why, Mr. Math, did you leave that 20 not in parentheses and this -24 in parentheses? To be honest, the answer is habit. When I'm multiplying, in fact, I put a dot here and didn't put a dot here. This was actually uncharacteristic of me. I would normally write things like this. and I would maybe put even the positive numbers in like this. All you need to know is that multiplication can look, whoa, multiplication can, whoa, multiplication can look different in different approaches, okay? So you just need to be able to adapt to that because it's just communication style. Like I've been saying since day one, we're basically communicating to each other, all right? Negative 3 squared. Negative 3 times 3. By the way, you might have just heard me say 3 squared. Like you heard the sentence 3 squared, the phrase, whatever. That's because when you see that 2, that is squared, just so you know. So anyway, the negative's out front. It is equal to negative 9. That is our answer for 21. Oh no, they've given us a squared and a 3. You know, oh no, this is all we got is we got negative 3 times negative 4 times negative 4. That's all this means. This is that, okay? So we can go left to right. Negative 3 times negative 4 is 12. And 12 times negative 4 is negative 48. That's our answer for 24. Okay, 27, they have thrown us a curveball a little bit because this is negative 5 times negative 2 minus 3 times 4. So here's what we're going to do. PEMDAS, the order of operations, says that we should go in this order, right? But also we should go left to right. And if you're like, wait, isn't that what this was, left to right? Yes. But let's say we have, you know, here's a multiplication here and here's a multiplication here. It's probably recommended, probably like more than recommended, that you start on the left side. So negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10, okay? And then here's what I'm going to do. This is negative 3 times negative 4. That is positive 12. Add 10 and 12, and you get 22. So this is 22. All right, 16. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times negative 3 is 42. But I forgot to make it negative. Negative 42. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Negative 20 times negative 5 is positive 100. 22 says negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Why did I include the parenthesis? I'm sorry, the negative? Well, I kind of answered my question on accident. It's because of the parenthesis, okay? So negative times a negative, that's positive 4. Times negative 2, that's negative 8. And then just for fun, since I told you that this was 3 squared, this right here is negative 2 cubed. Cubed is the word for when there's a 3 in the exponent. Number 25, negative 7 squared looks like this, and it's multiplying by 2. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49 times 2. And if you are like, I can't do that in my head, here's what I'm going to do. Imagine that this was 50 times 2. That's 100. Well, then I just need to subtract 1 twice. Why subtract 1 twice? Because subtracting 1 would get me to 49, and doing it twice would mean that my answer is 98, which is what 49 times 2 is. 2 times negative 3 squared times 5 squared. All right, so I'm going to write out what we've got here. And one reason why I'm going to write out what we've got is, again, PEMDAS. PEMDAS says we should do parentheses, then exponents, right? And then multiply. So here's what we've got. We've got 2 times negative 3 times negative 3. And if you're like, well, wait a second, you didn't do the exponent. I changed the exponent into what it means in terms of multiplication, okay? And then now times 5 times 5. In fact, I don't like the way I've written that. I kind of did a mixture of like dots and parentheses and then dots and then parentheses again. So here's what I'm going to write instead. Like that. Okay. 2 times -3 is -6. -6 times -3. Well, hang on. I don't want to do that because I know that 5 times 5 is 25. And then I don't know about you, but I used to, go play video games at like the movie theater or at Chuck E. Cheese, and they required quarters. Quarters are 25 cents. So I know that 6 quarters is $1.50. Okay. And then we still have that -3 right here. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so lost. 2 times -3 is -6. Since these are all being multiplied, I could have done them in any kind of order I wanted to. And so I did this next. And if you're wondering, well, wait, didn't you say we had to do left or right with PEMDAS? Where did I write that? Right there? I did. But when it comes to some of these, they're commutative and the order doesn't really matter. Back to this one, I know that $1.50 3 times is $4.50. And a negative times a negative is positive. All right. Now right here, they're saying find the next 2 numbers in the pattern. Well, I'll bet you can tell that they are going from 6 times -2, and then from -12 to 24 times -2 times -2 again. So what's 48 times -2? That would be positive 96. And if we were to multiply that again by -2, let's see, I'm going to have to try that a little bit over here. 96 times 2. Again, I could do like 100 times 2, and that's 200. But then I would have to subtract 4 twice. So subtracting 8, which is subtracting 4 twice, is 192. So -192. These are my 2 answers for right here because I was supposed to find the next 2 numbers in the pattern, right? Right. This one's a little bit bigger, a little bit uglier, but you could still do it. Times -3, times -3, times -3. So we're going to times -3. I'm not going to try and do, heroic inside my head math. I'm just going to do it right here. 3 times 3 is 9. That is it's positive 729. And then we need to multiply that by 3. Okay. So 27, carry the 2, 6, 8. Let me just, that feels wrong. So I'll try to get in. 3 times 9, 27, carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 6, and yep, that's it. And then -2,187. Woohoo, that's that one. Okay, and now we're reaching the one that maybe you're here to watch the video for because you're just feeling uncomfortable in making the guess or making the answer. But here's what I'm going to say. Just like back over here where I was like, write down your work, dude. I want you to try writing something. A picture, a number line, a something. You're on an elevator and it's 180 feet above the first floor. Okay, so here is our elevator. Here you are. And here's the first floor. Okay, this elevator is 180 feet up. Yeah? And it says that it descends, which I think that means going down. Every second it goes down 12 feet, right? I think already you kind of get the idea of what's happening. A says, what integer is the change in the height of the elevator each second? Technically speaking, if you just wrote 12, I would not yell and scream at you, but I would say, wouldn't you much rather say -12 because you're going down 12 feet? So that's my answer here is -12. Next, we're going to complete the table. You can ignore this copy part. We're going to complete this table. And the idea is that after 3 seconds, what will our height be? And when you look at my answer sheet, you'll see I initially was just like, oh, okay, 3 times negative 12, that's negative 36. But that's not it. I failed to keep in mind, we are 180 feet in the air right now. So when I subtract 36, then I get that I am now 144 feet off the ground, right? And then after 6 seconds, I've gone down another 36 feet, right? And so that is 108, I believe. So I'm at 108. And then after another 3 seconds, I'm down another 36 feet. And that is now 72. Okay, so that's that table. Now, estimate how many seconds it takes the elevator to get to the first floor. So if you're going to estimate, then, guys, you've already done some of the work. You went down 3 seconds. You went down another 3 seconds. You went down another 3 seconds. You could probably kind of just figure out that it's going to take another 6 seconds to go down another 72, because 36 and 36 is 72. So it's not that you're estimating, you're actually doing almost an exact calculation. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, plus another 6. My estimate is 15 seconds. And then also, because 15 times 12 is exactly 180. So that's how I know that I will be at 0 at the first floor after 15 seconds. Now, from the first floor, it takes 4 seconds to reach the basement. So here you are on the first floor now, and you're going to go down into the basement. And it takes 4 seconds. So it says, what is the height of the basement floor with respect to the first floor? Well, hang on. If we were at 180 here, I would say we're at 0 here. And here, I would say we are at negative 12 times 4, which is negative 48 feet. So negative 48 feet. That's the whole thing. Let me know what questions you got. See ya.